Dr. Patrick DeFazio was born and raised in Niagara Falls on the Canadian side, the Ontario side. He completed his pre-med studies at Brock University in Canada and received his Bachelor of Science degree from the University of the State of New York. He graduated with honors in 1988 from Parker University College of Chiropractic in my hometown, Dallas, Texas. He was the founding father, director of athletics, and also served on the Academic Standards Committee. He's a supervising doctor for the University of Health Sciences in Los Angeles. Really is experienced in treating sports injuries, which is one of the things we're going to talk about today. He's got patients in all the professional sports, NFL, NHL, MLB, PGA, and we'll talk about his approach in just a minute. Also with me is my good friend, Dave Fabrizio. He's a physical therapist. His physical therapy and sports medicine career started in the United States Air Force. He graduated cum laude from Cleveland State University with a Bachelor of Science in Physical Therapy. He did internships at the top medical facilities in the Cleveland area, including the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, and he treats all kinds of populations, acute, cardiac, neurological patients, orthopedic, sports medicine as well. He was selected as one of the 2 physical therapists at the Great Lakes. What was the whole name of that?
Great Lakes Regional Rehab Center?
Yeah, up there. And he's qualified to teach biomechanics, ergonomics, and back school. I was really impressed that he's got 1,000 hours in athletic training rooms across the country in both college with high school athletics, and has a real diverse and in-depth understanding of kinesiology and abnormal movement patterns. So welcome, both of you. I'm glad you guys are sitting down with me today. We're at the top of the year, and the number one resolution is what? Everybody wants to be healthy, live a healthier life, start exercising. People say that, but then they don't stick with it, or they say it and they overdo it and they injure themselves. And right now, you see people get off the couch, have heart attacks shoveling snow. Come spring, you see people get off the couch and get into softball leagues. They pull hamstrings, they blow out knees, they do all sort of things like that. Now we've got pickleball, which I'm a big fan. I think pickleball is a great thing, get people active, but they're getting off the couch and they're blowing out shoulders and all sort of things in pickleball. So I thought it was a good time to talk to people about, let's do this right. We want activity. We want to do it right. Dave, why are people getting injured so much?
Well, it's funny you mentioned pickleball because I've had so many patients over the last few years. I don't know if you probably have too, but they're going into this and it's such a fun game that everybody, regardless, because there's limited movements. So people that aren't really great athletes are still able to do it, right? And they love it. But the problem is there has to be a certain level of conditioning going into it so that your tendons are able to absorb the force. Like I see a lot of rotator cuff inflammation from people because they're basically they're going at it like crazy with that ball. There's not much weight to the ball, and they're straining their shoulders. So I think the key is if you're gonna try and get into these activities, there's a certain amount of mobility you have to have, flexibility, and strength and stability. So doing rotator cuff stuff and some scapular stabilization work, stuff like that, so that your shoulder's better able to withstand that.
Well, you might as well be talking a foreign language because you say those words like everybody knows what that means, but we don't know what that means. And
which part?
Well, your scapular stabilization. So, okay, everybody, do your scapular stabilization. Thanks for tuning in. What the hell does that mean?
All right, let me make it more tangible. In general, when I rehab a shoulder, for example, most people want to train, particularly the guys, they want to train pecs and they want to train biceps. They don't think about anything on the backside of the body, right? So typically I'll tell people, look, do 3 back exercises for every 1 chest exercise you do. So you get better balance. You want that posterior chain strong because your scapulae, right? They have to have all the muscles stabilizing them.
Okay, you're talking about your shoulder blades.
Talking about your shoulder blades, right?
Okay.
Yes, your shoulder blades. So you want those muscles firing effectively, right? The rotator cuff can be really strong, but if you don't have the stability of those scapular muscles.
What should people do?
For example, rows. And rows at different levels, like a high row, a low row. Things we call.
And people don't need to join a gym for this. They can get some tubing or something, right? And put it around a doorknob and pull on it.
Sports cords are great You could totally take them in the hotel with you. Some actually have a little piece of fabric that you can throw into the door. And you close the door, and you can start to do your rows there.
And when we're talking about rows, we're talking, and I'm not trying to be condescending. I know a lot of people go to gyms and have certain things in their home, but I just want to be clear to people that folks can do simple sort of things to really activate muscles that they don't use every day and keep from injuring themselves in a way they tear something and wind up having to have surgery or become inactive again. And you're talking about something as simple as rows, where they can get a piece of tubing, which you can get for 10, 15, 20 bucks or something, that you can put around a pole or whatever, and it's got handles on it, and you can do chest rows, waist rows. You pull just like you're rowing a boat.
Right.
And that activates the muscles in your back.
Absolutely. And you can also use that same, because they typically come with handles. So you can do external rotation and internal rotation, which are your rotator cuff muscles, right? So now you're getting the rotator cuff. You're doing a little rowing. If I were to tell people to go on on YouTube, you can find a million videos, but Ys, Ts, reverse flies, all these muscles target the back and are exceptional to decrease the neck stress, to increase the strength of the back in general, and to support the shoulder.
Yeah, and Pat, I'm a big fan, obviously, of chiropractic. And a lot of people might think about this from a generation ago, but modern chiropractic is a lot different than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. You're a big believer in people strengthening their core because you see a lot of back injuries, a lot of back aches, a lot of neck problems and stuff. And what we're talking about keeps people from having those kind of problems.
Correct. Right now, we have an incredible amount of scientific evidence to show the benefit of keeping the body as possibly aligned as possible, keeping the flexibility in the body, and then the strengthening. When you combine flexibility with strength, it's more difficult to be injured. The body can then be attuned to perform at an optimum level. Now, we've got the average person, like you say, are they a couch potato or are they, an Olympic athlete? So where in the spectrum does that individual fall? We can be great bodybuilders or great weightlifters, and we can go swim 10 laps, 40-foot long pool, and our body's sore as heck for the next 2 or 3 days because they're muscles we don't normally use. So what I have found is that at what do you want to perform, and is there a little bit of conditioning you can do, 5-7 minute warm up before you play that activity? We're talking in particular about pickleball. So what, as Dave was saying, what are some exercises we can do to strengthen and also to increase flexibility for that arm? We don't normally perform an arm length strain in everyday life. So when we're going to do that activity and we pivot with rotation, we're going to be more prone to injury. If there's some basic exercises, as Dave said, Ys, Ts, and something on YouTube you can look at, and or simple basic exercise you do daily, you have now activated those muscles. They have the memory within them. So when you go to perform that activity, such as the pickleball, it's not so strenuous on that arm, not so strenuous on the shoulder or that joint. Less prone to injury.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When we do some of these sports activities, and a lot of people are listening to us right now while they're walking. They're going out for their morning walk. They've got their earbuds in. They've hit podcasts, fill in the blanks, and they're playing while they're walking. Walking is something we do every day. It's an activity of daily living. So that's not an issue. But when they go to play a sport, whether it be softball or tennis or pickleball or golf or whatever, you're doing rotations and things. They're not activities of daily living. So we're doing rotations and extensions and things that we don't do every day, and our body is not accustomed to it. Our tendons and our ligaments and our muscles and stuff, we're asking the body to do things it doesn't do every day. And that's where we've got to start doing range of motion, strength and stuff so we don't wind up injuring ourselves.
Exactly.